North Bramalea Presbyterian Church, a history of following Christ. Oh yes, our history is about following Christ. From our first service on May 8th, 1983, where we baptized 6 children, North Bramalea Presbyterian Church had many firsts. Although from the years of 1983 to 1988, under Reverend Ted Nelson, we only were meeting at Williams Parkway Senior Public School. But we still had our First Communion service, our first church bazaar, our first congregational picnic. Our choir performed at a church music festival. We had fellowship night, and even our first year anniversary. After Reverend Ted Nelson said goodbye, a new minister, Reverend Ford, was brought in, and plans moved to build a building to provide a permanent place to worship Christ in. We have a history of working for God. Everybody chipped in with over 2,000 hours of volunteer work put in for God's kingdom by congregation members, and finally, the building was done and dedicated on July 17th, 1988, and the work for Christ continued. And it continued at 925 North Park Drive. There was even a newspaper article about it. In 1989, Reverend Johnston was called to be the minister at NBPC, and the work and worship continued. Church anniversaries were held, the 20th and the 30th. Groups were formed to do the work of the church. Table tennis started in our hall. Elders were ordained. Even a band was formed. And the first stained glass windows were put up to remember those who had served the church so well. We have a history of working for the Holy Spirit. In 2013, Reverend Johnston retired, and under the leadership of Reverend Wayne as interim minister, the Fellowship and Fundraising Committee was restarted. And in 2015, the congregation extended the call to Reverend Dr. Billard. And the work continued. Anniversaries were celebrated. Vacation Bible camps took place. Concerts were held. Wings, Woman in God's Service, was established. Youth group was reformed. Sunday school teachers were dedicated. New elders were ordained. And there was plenty of opportunity to craft and bake and break bread with one another. There was even a junior choir formed. We opened our doors to the Pathfinders, and there was a greeter and usher team formed and dedicated to show NBPC's dedication to hospitality and to welcome people into our church. In November of 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Reverend Clark was called to NBPC, and the work continued. Even during the pandemic, our church moved forward. Babies were baptized, and sacrament took place. Although we didn't worship inside the building, virtually, online on the weekends, worship continued. And then finally, on September 12th, 2021, the church returned to public worship. We have a history of working as a church, a long history of working for Christ. So happy anniversary, North Bramalea Presbyterian Church. Let us celebrate that anniversary of this church being in service to Jesus Christ.